Hi, my name is Courtney Terry, and this is Arts Alive. My guest today is Cheryl Wanner, and you have your, so as we were saying before, you've been writing for a long time, but you have your first published novel has just come out.
Yes.
And that's exciting.
It is.
So See Me As I Am
Yes.
is the title, and what was the official publication day?
May 16th.
Oh, goodness. And so tell me, you'd said before our interview that you've been writing a very long time, since you were 12, but it's been kind of a path to get from there to being a published author.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. I started writing at the age of 12, first for a school project, but then I had characters who lived in my head, but they didn't really have an outlet, so writing gave them an outlet. And I did that as a high schooler. And into my 20s, and about 2021, I decided I wanted to write, hopefully, to get published. That was a long time ago. And I have written aggressively ever since. Multiple projects, multiple attempts. I've had agents and publishers interested, but just never quite got somebody to land the deal until May 18th of 2022. And I signed on the dotted line with Immortal Works Press of Utah, and they have been amazing. They were absolutely in love with my book and published it. So it's been a long journey, but it's been rewarding and worth it. And so, yeah. Yeah,
well, and especially, like, as you said, to kind of have I totally get what you mean about kind of characters in your head that stay with you and getting to kind of finally see. How did you find the publisher? You were just out there. You said you really wanted to publish your book kind of traditionally, and so you were going out there and just looking for publishers? Or?
I started on the publishing track in the 1980s. It was a forerunner of this book. That's how old this story is and how old these characters are, but not this book exactly. And so I had an agent interested, and we worked together, but then it all never worked out. And this was back in the days of snail mail. So you had to send out your query, you had to send out the package, you had to send out an SASE and wait months for it to come back and be devastated when it came back to you in the mail because you wanted a letter and not your package returned.
Right.
And so at the end of that period of time, I put the book away. I had other writing projects going, and some of them were for our children, just for fun. And so I did that for a while. And then I started the project I'm actually working on now. But I also went back and revisited this story with a completely revamped version of it in the mid-90s, somewhere in there. I had no interest from any publishers on that. So I put it away, went back to the book I'm working on now, and I nearly sold that one in 2005 to a publisher, direct sell to a publisher. But they were no longer handling YA. And I lost the deal because it was YA.
Right.
And so I did go through a period of I don't know what to work on because I've tried and these things have failed. And so I worked on some other things. I have a big fantasy project in the works as well. But eventually I came back to this book and said, okay, once more into the breach, we're going to do this one. And I did. So, and things had changed. Among other things, publishing had changed because of the internet. I had written 3 articles for Oregon Coast Magazine in the 1980s, and then I stopped doing it. My passion was fiction. But about 2008, I thought, I'm going to check them out again. And lo and behold, it was all done digitally. And I sold the first story I proposed to them, and I've written for them for years.
Wow.
On a regular basis. I'm one of their premier writers. I guess they're not currently marketing the magazine except online. But I have the #1 story in their online sale, online post. I've got #1 story on fishing the jetties, So yeah, and that opened up a different world for me because all of a sudden I could approach publishers and agents through the internet. But the real game changer came with social media and Twitter. I had been on Facebook for years, but I signed on to Twitter and Instagram. Because one of the magazines I was interested in writing for required that. So I did. And then I discovered the Twitter writing community. And I discovered something called RevPit, Revise and Submit, It's a Rev Pit. Rev Pit is a Twitter-based writing contest in which you submit your book to various editors, and each editor selects a winner for full developmental editing.
Oh, wow.
My first year, this book was a finalist with my chosen editor. She sent me a crushing letter that told me the two major things that were wrong that devastated me, but she was 100% correct. It took me 2 years to make all those changes. But the next year I went back to Rev Pit and I won with a different editor.
Oh, wow.
So that gave me all the developmental editing, and that was so amazing.
Yeah.
And then for marketing, though, I still was struggling with agents. Almost everybody was like, no, no, no. And that's really pretty common today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard. And I always wanted...
You hear more than not.
Yes, and I always wanted an agent. I never considered going direct to a publisher too much. Mostly I wanted an agent. It just didn't work out. I'd get agents interested and then they'd turn me down. I had a couple of near misses that were pretty heartbreaking. But then there's also something out there called PitMad. PitMad has kind of, I think it may be defunct in itself, but the offshoots are there. So PitMad is a Twitter pitch for your book in 180 characters, including hashtags.
Oh.
And was 3 times a year. And you had to devise something like 3 different pitches that were just stellar. Talk about really difficult writing.
Yeah.
And so I participated in that for like almost 2 years. And my very last participation of it, I got 2 likes from 2 different publishers. I had had some previously. Both of these publishers offered me a contract. Not simultaneously. The first one I turned down because we just weren't real keen on the contract. The second one sent me an acceptance letter when I was sitting at a Portland Winterhawks game, and I was it was so exciting. So we negotiated a bit and talked a bit, but that's Immortal Works Press, and I signed with them, and I've never looked back and never regretted it.
Yeah,
and
that's so amazing too that it kind of for you it's been a kind of checking in and then. Yeah, having Twitter, and I've heard so much about. I mean, I know that there's communities all over Twitter, or actually X, as it is.
I know X.
Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. You know, for readers and for writers, like it's so. There's such great community spaces online.
I had known how important it was, and when I got into it, it was amazing. The connections. My beta readers are. I've got 3 or 4 betas. All from Twitter, and family members also as well that are betas. But to go from writing on paper as a child to writing by a typewriter to finally having computers that would do word processing, and then to be able to just send everything to your publisher for my articles, photography, all of it direct through the internet was like, oh, this is amazing. And then the Twitter community where you can direct communicate with agents and editors, you know. Yeah. I mean, I've just talk to my editors like I'm talking to you, you know.
Yeah.
Just real easily. And I've loved working with them. I also love the fact that once you're published with them, you can direct send to them. And so that's a cool thing too.
You kind of past that initial tough part.
Yes, and not only do they publish in paperback, but also ebook and audiobook. My audiobook released about 3 to 4 weeks ago.
Oh, that's a whole another exciting. So, well, and I guess we should. So about the book.
Yes, that might be useful.
Yes, it's about a high school student named Jenny, and it's set in Portland, which I love. And then, so, I mean, I get to give the description of the book, but you are the writer. So.
Okay. Well, this story was actually based on a dream I had. And I had the dream in 1980, and that's why all the many versions of this book, because it was unlike anything I'd ever had. The dream was about a girl named Jenny, and it wasn't about me, and I wasn't even there. And I mean, it just really stuck with me. So, yes, Jenny's from Portland. She actually lives in Sandy, but she grew up in Portland, and she's blind. And she was blinded in a horse riding accident at the age of 12. She's now 17, attends Sandy High School. Her parents are divorced. She lives with her mom and younger sister, Caitlin. Her dad still lives in the Forest Park area of Portland. And she has strong feelings for her dad and for that area that she grew up in. She's an epic music fan, particularly of the rock metal band O'Shannon. They're from Cork, Ireland area. So this is a rock music novel. So it's great for anyone who's a fan of music. Even if you're not the fan of this genre of music, it doesn't really matter. It's music is music, you know. It's just someone who's a fangirl. And she's a blogger and a journalist for her high school paper. She does ride horses, too. She competes on her OSET, Oregon High School Equestrian Team. and skis and has interest in learning to rock climb on Smith Rock and lots of things that you wouldn't expect. She has a guide dog from Guide Dogs from the Blind in Boring, Oregon. All the locations in this book are real, including the street names, the businesses. A segment takes place at the Tacoma Dome. There's Moda Center in here, a couple scenes in Gresham, one itsy bitsy scene on the North Oregon coast. And it is written through her eyes. It is written in first person present tense. It's written after the style of the genre that I've been reading for the last 10, 15 years, decided this is the way to write the book. There are, Jenny's blog entries are in here, and most of those deal with blindness and in her life. There's the article that she writes about the concert she goes to at the Moda Center. And then there's a couple other little pieces that fall between chapters. But she tells a story in her own words. And she writes actually in 3 different styles. Her book's telling style, her blog, which is a little more relaxed, and her article, which is a little more formal. And one of the things, a couple things that I've been hearing from readers is, number one, they learn a lot about the blind, but it's written in such a way to make you, the reader, feel as if you're blind. But it's also written in such a way that you will see everything Jenny does not. Because there are descriptions there. Some are from memory, but a lot of them are all from other senses. Touch, taste, smell, hear, all this kind of thing.
And that choice to have Jenny have to be blind, was that kind of like always from the beginning? Yes.
She was not blind in the dream, but the blindness is essential to the plot.
Yeah.
It's very plot-centric to have. It is a romance novel, YA contemporary romance, and her blindness is very centric to that, but what I was not prepared for, especially back the decades ago when I was writing this book, was for people today to grab onto the representation of disability.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That is really grabbing people. The comments I hear the most about are the disability representation and the things that are available for the blind. And my book is actually out of date because there's so much tech being developed as we speak. I know a couple of people who are blind, and even after this had gone to press, they're saying, "Do you know about this new app?" It's like you just can't keep up with it all.
It will for the next one in this year.
So anyway, learning about blindness has been a big thing for people, and they've really gravitated onto experiencing blindness themselves, which I wrote the book for the romance. The romance is the piece of it that blows me away. And people are being blown away by it.
Yes. And I guess, was there a reason you decided to go YA versus adult versus... I like YA because I like the style in which it is written, but I also find it more relatable, despite the fact that I celebrated 47 years of marriage this year. I still relate as a writer to YA writing, and here's why. When I was growing up, I lived in my home until I got married. I married at the age of 19, and I lived at home till then, and so did my husband. And I've never really had a career. I mean, my husband and I owned pizza business for 2.5 decades or whatever, but I never really worked outside of the home, really in a career. So most adult books require careers, and they require more knowledge of stuff that I don't relate to. I just kind of like writing about characters who live with their folks or are that age is one of the reasons. The other reason is I like first love. And usually, if you're writing a contemporary adult, you're going to have people in their late 20s to 30s, and it's not the first go-round. Right.
And I like to write, I fell in love at age 18, married at 19, been married 47 years, so that's what I relate to.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's so much going on with the book. So where can people find copies of this?
Okay. It is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, my publisher, Immortal Works Press.
Okay.
Barnes & Noble Bridgeport did a book signing with me, and last I knew they still had books. I know 3rd Street has had books in there. I don't know if they still do. I sell them personally myself. And I'm trying to get it into some other bookstores as well. I'm hoping to get some other signings with some other places too.
Great. Well, the time went by so fast. We are already out of time on this interview.
I talked too much.
No, that's okay. Well, you had wonderful things to say, so thank you. So Cheryl, thank you again for your time and your book, See Me As I Am. And yeah, we'll have to have you back in and we can just
Oh,
talk
that'd be
more
really
about
fun.
it.
That'd be really fun.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks. This is Courtney Terry, and this has been Arts Alive.